Hello amigos, I'm Pablo Garcia, the engineer photographer. In the last episode, and the link is right here, I show you how I built this gig to do water drop photography. And it has given me very nice results. I also added a second water bottle, second water line, so now I can use different colored water and have the drops alternate and try to give me different effects. So if you haven't seen that episode, I highly recommend it, and maybe you want to build your own. In this episode, I wanted to show you how I edited some of those images to either enhance the shape, enhance the color, or even change the color of the water drops. Now, to start, we need some color. And what I have done to create color is a number of different things. One, I have used color gels in the flashes to give me color in the light as I try to freeze the movement of the water drop. And sometimes I use the same gel color on both flash heads, or sometimes different ones, depending on different effects that you can get. Then we can use matte paper, matte foam, something that doesn't reflect, and these ones work really good for the background. I also use metallic paper and cardboard, different shapes, different colors. And these ones, I like to bounce the light on the side, sometimes putting it underneath the water and bouncing the light through the water and get, again, different color, different effects, especially on papers like these ones that have multiple colors. I really like the effects that I can get. And finally, I got some food coloring that you can use on the water and again get different effects. And especially now that I have two different water bottles, I can get drops of two different colors coming down, and hopefully, if I get lucky, get that collision. And I'll show you some of that. Let's start with some color, and now let's go into Lightroom. I'm going to show you what I did. Here we are in Lightroom, and here's an image. But before we start showing you the before and after, let's just review some of the tools that we have in Lightroom to change or enhance colors. Let's go to the develop panel. In the basic panel, we of course have the ability to change color by enhancing the vibrance or the saturation. Vibrance is basically a smart saturation that is going to increase the saturation of the colors that are less saturated. That's one way within the basic panel. Another way on the basic panel is using the profiles. And Lightroom comes with a number of profiles or color lookup tables. You can also buy or download others that allow you to change how the colors are interpreted on the image and enhance or change the colors that way. A third way is the HSL panel, where we can change luminance, saturation, and hue. A fourth way is the calibration panel, where we can change the primary colors of red, green, and blue, and radically change the image just by changing the hue or the saturation of those three main channels. And finally, the last way is using our local adjustments. So here I open the brush, and in the brush, allow us to change saturation. The dehaze can also change colors a bit and enhancing contrast on the colors. But recently, Lightroom added this hue, and we can change colors. Let me paint something here. And you can change colors that way. So let me delete that. So overall, we have a lot of options to modify colors on the image. So let's review some of these images. Here is an initial image, the before and the after. Besides cropping the image, you'll see that the color of the water changed quite a bit. I wanted to map it to the purple that I had on the bottom, even though I cropped it. What I end up doing on this one is using the adjustment brush, I paint it and change the hue. So let me show you. Here's the area that I painted, and here is without the change and with the change. So allow me to have the water drop stand out more from the background. That's one way to change the color. Here is another image. I needed to crop it quite a bit more because the action is right here. That's the before, and this is the after. And again, I changed the color of the sphere. You can see it on the before. It is very much the same color as the background. It doesn't stand out as much. So I use the brush to basically paint a different hue and enhance the color in a few of the other areas. Here is another image. I really like this shape. It looks like somebody's taking a dive, jumping out of this platform and diving into the water. I cropped it, and I also enhanced the color or changed the color of the diver and a little bit here of this base to have a more color contrast with the background, also using the adjustment brush. Here you have a collision. I finally was able to get two drops, one bouncing up and one coming down and creating this collision. And here is the edited one where I also use the adjustment brush to change the hue and allow this area to stand out a little bit more. Now, here we have an image that's a little dark. And as you can see, I use the metallic paper in the background. I needed to tame some of these reflections. So here's the final image. And some of the things that I did is, besides using the adjustment brush to change the hue saturation, I also used profile change. And I went to Modern 2 to change how the colors are interpreted. Here you can see is mostly blues, and here is mostly magentas and purples. And just using the profile changed the color interpretation quite a bit and gave me a different point to start with. Here is another image that is a little dark, but by enhancing the colors on the background, I think it came out really nice. I really like this shape. It almost looked like a Christmas sphere, right, from a Christmas tree. These metallic reflections from the metallic paper came out really nice. And in this one, I basically used the painting a different hue in some of the areas to make the sphere stand out a little bit more. Here's another one, and I needed to crop it quite a bit because the interesting part is right here. And here it is, cropped. If I wanted to print it bigger, I can always use AI gigapixel from Topaz to make the file 2 or 4 times bigger. And in this one, what I end up doing is using the HSL panel and adjusting the luminance, a little bit the saturation of the blues, and changing the hues using the HSL panel. So here is without adjustments, and here is with the adjustments. Here we have another interesting image. I have used a metallic paper as the background. Again, it dominates too much. We need to tame the brightness of the background and crop the image. And this is a very interesting shape. It almost looks like a dancer or somebody playing soccer and hitting one of the balls right there. In this one, I used the brush and painted a little bit of the hue just to change the hue a little bit and make this very interesting figure stand out a little bit more from the background. Here's another image straight out of the camera. Very nice. I like the background. I like the water. This time I was using some of the color gel in the water, so there's inherent color in the water. And I had used a different paper for the background. Here is the final image. I think it came out really nice. I really like the depth of the colors. In this one, what I had done is use one of the profiles, and I used Modern 10 to slightly change the colors and give me a different point to start and make my other adjustments. Here's another interesting shape. We have these two columns that are colliding, a red water drop coming down and a blue one. Let's say I have two different water bottles, one with red water and one with blue water. And too bad I didn't capture the collision that was going to happen, but this is an interesting image. And here's how it ended after I adjusted it. And I basically used the hue and saturation. Here you can see I changed the hue of the blue. I adjusted the saturation of the blues and the reds. And I also changed the luminance. Now, one problem with this image is this water drop is a little bit out of focus. It's not on the same plane as the rest. So I used AI Sharpen from Topaz. I took this image, went to AI Sharpen. Here is the resulting image, and it just added a touch of additional focus and sharpening to the image. You may not be able to see it in this video, but on my monitor, I can notice it, especially in these areas right here. Using some of these plugins, it really works when perhaps our capture wasn't as perfect. And here's the final image I wanted to show you. Here is basically what I envisioned doing from the beginning when I added the second water bottle. We have a red section, a blue section. It was probably 2 different drops of water, a blue tint water drop and a red one that finally collided. Interesting shape. I cropped it. I did my edits with the HSL panel, adding brightness and luminance and saturation. It came out very nice, but there are a couple of things with this image I needed to correct. One is because of the shape of the image and this slanted collision is reflecting too much the flash. And this reflection, these white reflections are a little bit distracting. That's problem number one. Problem number two is this area here on the bottom is a little bit out of focus because it wasn't on the plane of focus that we had, in the area of focus that we had with our camera. I went to Photoshop and I used Topaz Sharpen as a layer in Photoshop to give me some additional sharpening, especially in this area, some additional focus. And then I use the content aware tools, the healing brush and the content aware fill, to correct some of the more distracting reflections. And this is the final image. So here is before. All these reflections here, I was able to eliminate. I left these ones here. I may still go back and remove these ones, but I just wanted to show you that there are some additional tools, right, in Photoshop, more powerful tools for doing corrections. I could have used Topaz Sharpen as a plugin and just sharpen this area and leave it here in Lightroom. But by going to Photoshop, I was able to use the powerful correction tools in Photoshop to fix some of these more distracting corrections. So overall, very nice image. I really like it. Like I said, I may still go back and correct these. I don't know. What do you think? Well, amigos, I hope you like this episode. I'm having a lot of fun doing water drop photography. And if you're liking this series, please take a minute to subscribe, send me a comment or two, help me pass the word about my channel, and I'll see you next time.